Well, I think, when you come into spring training, you want to feel pretty confident where you're at. We have to train indoors up here most of the time. So with his sled work that you're doing, you're pulling sleds and you're doing explosion work, where he's got some bands, tied behind you, and he's kind of resisting you as you're exploding forward. You're getting the explosion work, you're getting the cardio work that you need. You're keeping yourself in the same shape you would want to be in if you lived in an area where you're outdoors. And he tries to mimic that scenario as much as possible. So what he's done, I think, really, really well with me, and with some of the other guys working out here, is he's tried to design some stuff indoors that we can do to create, keep, and gain explosion, gain core strength, gain leg strength, upper body strength. With the band works that we do, the resistance training that we do. I think all those things go into play where you get into camp and you don't feel like you're behind the 8 ball. When I get into spring training, I don't feel like that these guys are exploding better than me. Why I need to get, I don't understand why I'm so far behind here, here, and here. My leg strength's good. I'm not sore in areas where I usually be sore sometimes because I was training myself. I was just trying to stay strong. But then I go to camp, we do baseball situations where you're using the muscles differently. But we're using the muscles here that I would use in a baseball situation. He'll get me on a mound and I'll start basically exploding off of a mound, but he has resistance behind me, so he can train my body to explode off a mound. So he just does different creative things that work the body, that work the body with the position that I have as a pitcher. He sees me as a pitcher, he trains me as a pitcher. He's got hitters here, he trains them as hitters. We do different drills that basically help us perform at our position, and hopefully we can perform at a peak level. And I think that's, for me, what he's done with me, and this is why I feel good going into spring training. I feel like I'm in condition, I'm stronger than most guys. I feel like I'm ahead of the game rather than behind the game, even though I'm having to work out indoors. Yeah, well, I think just with his knowledge of how the rotator cuff works and how our elbows are working, when it comes to pitching, and what to strengthen and why to strengthen them and the different ways to strengthen them. You don't get a lot of that in Spokane just because we're in Washington State, we're not known for being baseball players, right? So I think you get a lot of it in Arizona and Florida. You have different training facilities. You have, a lot of teams that have their training facilities down there for spring training you can go to. I don't have that up here. And so to see a guy that was basically coming in and kind of doing the same stuff and a little bit more advanced things as well to get my arm ready and in shape to throw, you felt like, man, this guy knows a little bit about what I do, because we don't just go to the gym and try to lift and get as big as we possibly can. There's certain strengths we have to key in on, and he seems to know a lot about which strengths I need to have, where my muscle development needs to be, where it doesn't need to be. Well, I think you get the kind of training that you would get if I lived in Arizona. You get the explosion work, which it's really hard to do because in Washington, obviously, we have snow, so it's hard to get outside and do explosion work. So we have a facility here with the turf that gives you your explosion work. He does the core work. He does. He's on you with your leg strength and your core strength and your shoulder strength, and you're just doing different stretches, and you're kind of keeping your body basically long and limber. For baseball, I need long muscles, so he keeps me long, and those are the kind of things that I really can't do on my own. So I need someone to push me. And if you just go to a trainer that's just training the body to be in good shape, you're not going to necessarily get that, because they're not training the correct way for what I do for a living. And so for being in Spokane, Washington, it was basically a breath of fresh air for me to know of a guy that was in here, understood what I needed to do at the major league level, being that he's worked with major league athletes before, to come in and to train me that way. Because in Washington you can lose ground because of the weather here, because you can't train the same way that these guys are training in Arizona. And in this game, in this situation, you got to be really competitive. It's not just show up to spring training, get in shape. These guys are already in shape. So you got to keep up with that, and I have a facility here now that I can do that in.